These mountains, they hold so much history over time of tragedies, good times, and bad. And the sad thing about this country is it got started in the early days. And these mountains is a sad story of the Native Americans being removed from their ancestral land. That's a sad time in this country. And another one, a story of brother against brother, the Civil War. And many a blood had been spilled across this land for what people believed in and what they fought and died for. The people in these mountains, just simple people. And most of them here in East Tennessee, always supported the North, the Union side. But some didn't. But this is a story of two brothers. Now they lived in simple little dwellings like this, all up and down these mountains. Just country folk, simple people living off the land, trying to raise a family and do better. Little old homes like this, raising a family. And these little old country boys growed up running in these mountains and hills, hunting, fishing, and loved to be in nature. Now these two brothers come from a little old family in Claiborne County, Tennessee. William and Philip. Philip was 31, William was 25. And the Civil War started in 1861. And Tennessee was slow to get in, but they got in it. There was 13 Confederate states when it was all done, and a couple of border states. But they called up the militia, raised an army. Now back in the early days, the 29th Infantry had fought everywhere except for Shiloh, and that's when they was started. And after Shiloh, Braxton Bragg was put in charge of the Western Campaign, the Western Theater of the Confederate forces. And you can see his route here, where he traveled up into Kentucky at first, fought at the Battle of Perryville, and it was a draw, and they lost, all told, both sides, over 7,000 men. He retreated back through Cumberland Gap, marched his army through there. And it took a while to march by foot from Perryville to the Gap, but he was on his way back to Chattanooga. And this is the Gap looks like nowadays, Cumberland Gap. So much history here, can't touch the surface of this place. But this is what it looked like during the Civil War, 1862. It changed hands 4 times. The South had it first, then the North, then the South took it again, and then the North took it again for the last time. A lot of history here. Cumberland Gap. They even cut all the trees down off the mountains. But anyway, as he's coming back, they lost so many men up Perryville in little battles. They's looking for conscripts, volunteers, people to join the army, fill their ranks if they lost men. And 2 such guys was William and Philip out of Claiborne County. And they was assigned to the 29th Infantry. This was an infantry started the start of the war out of East Tennessee counties. They were part of Claiborne's division in Cheatham's Corps of the Army of Tennessee. And yep, they got a lot of practice marching. They marched all over the place, by foot. And they got a lot of practice in little battles here and there. But the first real battle to bring them up to manhood was the Battle of Murfreesboro, Stones River. This was a couple days battle. But the real battle come up at Chickamauga. This was a 3-day battle. And it was a devastating battle for loss of life. Now here's the map of it. Now Longstreet come down from the Army of Virginia. Lee sent him down with his division to help Bragg stop, protect, to defend, going towards Atlanta. And he broke through. And the Union Army retreated in a rout back to Chattanooga. He should have took over Bragg's position right there, in my opinion. But Bragg sent him on to Knoxville later. But anyway, in this battle, there was over 34,000 casualties on both sides. And the Union retreated back to Chattanooga, where they was besieged by the Confederates here around Lookout Mountain, Missionary Ridge. And this is a story of what happened to William. William was out on patrol one night, and he got captured by Union soldiers, and he was sent to prison. Well, the jail, the stockade there in Chattanooga, and later on he was sent on to Knoxville, so the records say that he was there in prison. But William never made it home. Well, Philip was by himself. Well, in the spring, Sherman sent an army down, brought it himself to relieve Chattanooga and start his march towards Atlanta again. And he brought overwhelming forces down that Bragg could just not compete with. But they done their best to fight them, hold them back. But there was just too many forces. Here's a map of how they come out of Chattanooga, across Lookout Mountain, up to Missionary Ridge. And they just had overwhelming forces that the South just could not hold them back. So they retreated. And 12,000 men had casualties here on both sides. Now you can bet Philip was missing home. He was a veteran by now. And he was missing home bad, I'd say. But he was really wondering what happened to his brother. I guess he really never knowed in this life. But he didn't have time to think about it long. They was on a campaign too to stop Sherman from going towards Atlanta. This is Kennesaw Mountain. Rough place, a lot of casualties, hard fighting. Here's the map of Kennesaw Mountain. Now the 29th, where Philip was, the 29th Infantry, they was placed right here at a place, couldn't have been no worse place to been put than what they call the dead ankle. A little point sticks out from the line, and his unit was right here in it, the 29th. Worse place to be than this. But he done his part, what he could. He was a veteran by now. He knowed what to do and how to fight. Well, this went on for days, and the Union Army sent wave after wave, night and day, trying to take this position, Kennesaw Mountain, the dead angle, but they couldn't do it. They just couldn't do it. They even tried to tunnel under it and blow it up. Couldn't do that either. So the fight was on. Hand to hand a lot of times. They would be overrun, but they had enough reserve to fight them back and hold on to hold their position. They held on. What desperate fighting this must have been. But there was 4,000 lost here. Most of them was on the Union side. But Sherman gave this up and outflanked them. Now Philip, he was mortally wounded at the dead ankle, but he fought on. But he had a wound that he just would never go away. So he slowly went downhill, died. They sent him to Atlanta, to a hospital, and he died 3 days before Atlanta fell to the Union Army, and buried here in Oakland Cemetery, just outside of Atlanta, around Marietta, Georgia. So many of our boys is buried here. Sad. But the 29th kept fighting. This is the Battle of Atlanta. They fought on. And on both sides, the casualties here was 9,200. But it was a lost cause by then. But this is what done the Army of Tennessee in, annihilated them. John Hood had took over just before, right there in Atlanta, and he was going to attack Franklin's defenses before it got to Nashville. And he was going to hit them head on. You'd think he would know better by experience. You can't hit these dug-in forces. But he tried. Here's the map of it and how they done it. And it was a waste of life. He annihilated that army. All but gone. Just a handful of boys left for the 29th. There was 10,000 soldiers lost their life here. And 6,000 of them was Confederate, with 5 generals. They'd done all they could do. But anyway, here's the battles that was fought in the state of Tennessee, not counting the ones in Georgia, Kentucky, and the surrounding states. In the 29th, this is the battles that they was involved in. All the battles. Out of all the men they had, only a handful survived. Now this is the battle flag. Now most people sees this flag, they think it's a symbol of hate, evil, racism, division, but all it is, it's just a Confederate flag of the Confederate States of America at that time, their battle flag, nothing else. It's misrepresented over the years and given a bad name. But you see all these stains on this flag? That's a stain of our boys who died and fought for what they believed in. That's all it is. Over 300,000 of these Southern boys died. So sad. And here's a flag I'll show you that was presented to the 29th Infantry of Tennessee. Now I don't know why it don't have all the battle sites on it, but there it is. Now William, the rest of the story on William, he was sent on to Knoxville from Chattanooga to be transferred north later, but he never made it out of Knoxville. He caught some kind of sickness and died in jail. But we don't know where he's buried to this day. I'd say it's in one of the soldier cemeteries. Now, this is a sad time in our American history here in this country. On the north and the south. Useless. A useless war. But it's part of history, and you can't change history. All you can do is learn from it. And I just want to share these little stories with you of our people from our mountains. And the brothers, the reason I'm sharing is I dug this up in Ancestry, and I thought it was good to share. They were my third grade uncles out of Claiborne County, Tennessee. So I hope you enjoy these little stories. God bless, take care, and I'll see you next time.